Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Arrowhead Junction, a collaboration project between myself, Strict Toaster, and Fresh Popcorn. If you already caught the last episode, which I hope you did, that was episode 6.5, I guess. It was the podcast episode that we did where me and Strict Toaster and Fresh Popcorn just kind of sat down. We had a bit of a discussion over Skype, and we sort of just went over everything we've been doing in the past and our plans for the future. It was a lot of fun, but you may have noticed that during that episode, I sort of talked a little bit. I let you guys in on my plans for this area and this episode, episode 7. What I wanted to do was bridge the gap between Zamora Flats and the main town of Zamora. So you can see here on my right, I think, or now I guess, yeah, about to the right from here. Strict Toaster's original Zamora Flats is the area with the In-N-Out Burger, the Starbucks, and the truck stop, kind of that little area over there. And then the main town of Zamora is the larger suburb town that Strict Toaster also made, which is on the other side of this area, and it's actually connected to the interchange that I made. So the thing is, we don't really have anything in between these two, and what I sort of imagine this area to be, and this is just kind of based off of my own, like where I've lived and where I grew up, we had areas kind of like this where it seems like directly surrounding the high school and the elementary school, you're going to have a lot of growth. You're going to have like a lot of nice buildings and apartment complexes and all that stuff. Now, obviously, this is located, in pretty much the middle of nowhere, in like a big valley, but it is close to, or it's going to be close to, a larger town. So there is still, a relative population around here. It's not totally desolate, and I think that this town of Zamora definitely needs to have a sort of center, like larger, denser location, within its town. So I would imagine that the densest population, the actual apartment complexes and all that stuff, would sort of grow up and develop right around the high school. So that's what's going on right now. And you can see I just kind of finished the main road layout, and what I'm starting to set up here is the future of the suburbs surrounding these apartments, because again, they do look a little bit odd right now. I do agree. They're kind of just like sitting there, and they're sort of large compared to everything around them. So what I wanted to do is go from there, build up some suburbs, build up some like denser housing and stuff like right around it. And when I say denser housing, I still mean low density suburbs. Nothing, no obvious like large buildings or whatever. Just like these are the extent of the large buildings. So moving into the suburbs, you're going to see me sort of lay something out here, but nothing that's going to be permanent. In fact, I think that a lot of this will get reworked later. At least the suburbs will. The apartments are pretty good as they are. They will get detailed and all that stuff, obviously. But what's going to happen here is this episode really takes a turn. It's not at all what I was expecting it to be. So, like I said at the beginning, I was planning on trying to bridge the gap between Zamora Flats and Zamora, and then very quickly realized, you're going to probably notice on the bottom here, if you watch our demand, the industry is going to start to rise, and we're going to really need some jobs because we don't have like any jobs for these guys. And this is where my idea for this episode sort of sparks. So we don't really have, we have the airport over here, and we have some jobs. We have some factories and things over in Lone, but we really don't have anything over here in Zamora. So I kind of thought it made sense to not only make a location that supplies jobs, but also potentially like a reason for this whole town to have formed in the first place. And I think that we've all sort of talked a bit about the idea of these towns sort of forming around oil and drilling and all that stuff. So I thought, what better way to jump into this episode than to focus on making an oil refinery and kind of like practice, I guess, almost, because we have a lot of buildings for this, but personally, I've never used the Rico mod, or at least haven't used it enough to really know how to use it fully. So I wanted to play around with some of these different buildings that we have. I wanted to play around with the oil refinery stuff and try to make a small one over here in Zamora, because I do have plans when we really jump into the main town, which again is coming pretty soon. Hopefully you saw the episode 6.5 and you know our plans here. You know that we are working towards a larger town. So I know it's maybe some of you getting a little impatient and you're looking forward to the bigger stuff. I totally understand, and we're getting there. It's going to happen. But this is going to be the beginning of something that's going to hopefully be a bit of a recurring theme in this project. I definitely want to make a larger oil refinery and some larger factories in the main town, but this was sort of like a practice run, and not only a practice run, but I think it was a really cool opportunity to make Zamora feel like it's got some personality, you know, like it's been formed around this whole area. So this is sort of my first go at an oil refinery, and then on top of that also using the sharp angle junctions mod to clip some buildings together and sort of like form a larger factory. So I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. And you're gonna see as we get through, you know, further and further into this, and I'm gonna play around a lot with buildings. So you might see some weird stuff. You might see some buildings that look terrible, and I'm gonna delete them and whatever. But all in all, it's a lot of fun to play around with this stuff. It's a lot of fun to try and clip buildings and try to use the move it tool to move buildings into each other and draw roads over top of each other like this, and then create little intersections like that. All around, it's tons of fun. So the first idea was, okay, we need an oil refinery. So that's going right here. You can see we've got the basics of it. It's actually generating power, which is kind of cool. We've got some factories which are already developing a whole bunch of new jobs, which is fantastic. We're also going to have a few more like industry looking buildings kind of surrounding this factory to sort of blend it all together, I guess, which is the idea of this, was just to try to just like combine as many buildings as possible to make one larger factory. And I think it worked out pretty okay. I think that in the future I'll probably try and use some different buildings and maybe even download some more from the workshop to really help us in making cool looking refineries that are a little more unique even than this one. So that'll come in future projects. But anyway, I wanted to have one refinery over here, and then across the street where you saw me just like draw that road right across the national road there, I do want to have a full-on factory that's going to be pretty much the primary factory that supplies jobs for everybody in Zamora. So here I'm just playing out with these roads. This is like my favorite feature of the Sharp Angle Junctions mod, is the fact that you can just straight up draw right through building blueprints. Oh, there's a little saving error there. You can draw straight through blueprints or I guess just the footprint that the buildings have, no problem, and it looks so cool. I mean, that one that went in right between the big oil refinery and the factories, I think it's so cool that you can just like kind of wind roads in there like that where you normally couldn't. Really, really cool features of that mod. So super awesome there. Yeah, I actually want to mention something about what just happened there. You saw the saving error, and there's been a lot of errors we've been battling. I know Strict Toaster definitely touched on this, so I'm not going to try and jump too far into this, but long story short, there's been issues with Surface Painter, there's been issues with well, mostly Surface Painter actually, but the Time Warp mod was affected by this because Time Warp, you have to reload the game to make Surface Painter work right now, in at least in our save game. It works fine in Rhinestone, I don't know why, but it's a problem in this game, or this game save. And then once you reload the game to make Surface Painter work, then it breaks Time Warp, and then I can't change the time anymore, and there's just like a whole bunch of little issues. Cinematic camera was having some problems, so I have to update. So anyway, we've been in contact with people. Now, by the time you're seeing this, I would even expect all of this to already be sorted out, but that will be, I mean, these are kind of pre-recorded, because again, we're doing this project in a way where we're passing saves off. Strict Toaster is going to be gone for like almost a month at a time or something, I think, coming up here pretty soon. So we do have to record in advance, but I'm sure by the time this goes up, you will, or we will have some fixes to these problems. But basically, I'm just telling you right now because I'm super excited. Like, we've been working with people and we've been finding new solutions to a better cinematic camera. There's been some news about a 4K theme being possible. Apparently now you can use 4K textures. I need to like confirm that and play with it more, but if that's the truth, I mean, that's amazing. That would be so cool. So that's just like a couple of the really awesome things that are coming out for this game right now. And I don't know, I'm just really excited. Like, it feels like this game is going, I mean, we're discovering some things and we're creating some base mods that are gonna allow for some really cool stuff. You know, like I mentioned, whenever we got the big decals unlocker mod or whatever, that was already a big deal, but there's things that are much bigger than that coming out that are gonna make this game really, really cool. So super excited for that. I mean, that's all I'm gonna say about it. I know Strict Toaster mentioned it quite a bit in his episode, so we'll leave it to, you know, we'll just show you guys whenever it happens. It's gonna be pretty soon though, I think. So very excited about that as well. But anyway, back to this build a little bit. So you can see I'm trying to integrate it a bit with this little cargo hub that Strict Toaster made and the component that I made on the back next to the interchange over there. And right now I'm just trying to sort of blend the two together. So I figured, okay, back here there'll probably be some sort of like warehouse facility, you know, plenty of space for that. So we're putting down some warehouse buildings and then just laying out all the buildings right now. There is a pretty big task coming up at hand. It's going to be regarding just like foliage and detailing this whole area, but I'm kind of just putting that off for now and focusing on getting these warehouses out and trying to make this whole area feel, I don't know, like one big unit, not just like little weird components and stuff. So part of that was trying to connect the big oil refinery with this little cargo hub over here. So I guess I kind of figured that if we're going to have this giant cargo hub and we're going to have these big tanks here, I would imagine they're holding oil. So maybe we're bringing oil, we're exporting oil, and then these would then bring pipes over to the actual refinery. And, you know, that's what I kind of imagined out of this area. But on top of that, I kind of imagine this area to be pretty run down. I mean, it is obviously a giant factory, so there's technology involved and whatever, but I imagine that the facilities are pretty old. They've been here for a long time because this town's been here for a long time. So I'm going to try and incorporate that as well. I don't want everything to look too nice and well placed. And I think, and now I mentioned, I've read your comments. I've heard this many times. And I think that one of the biggest things that I personally get out of the comments of everybody else is that I design everything that I do maybe a little bit too clean. Like I'm making things look very like polished and nice. And obviously because I've been doing Rhinestone for so long, and Rhinestone's sort of supposed to be this like picture perfect town or city, I guess, located on an island, and it's supposed to be like tropical and nice. And so I'm not really doing a lot of like rundown stuff or ghetto looking things. So I wanted to really take that to heart and try something new here. So I hope you guys, like, I don't know, I hope that this looks to you guys a little bit more, or maybe even just you recognize this is kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit. I don't do this kind of thing very often. In fact, this is my first real attempt at doing something like this, and I think it actually turned out pretty nice. So let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think about this sort of effort to do something a little bit more run down, a little bit older, and something that I don't do nearly as often on my channel. So and you'll see it maybe a little more. It's not super apparent right now based on how this is all built, but what I'm really shooting for is, like I said, something that's a little more run down. It looks like it's been here for a long time, and there's going to be some overgrowth. There's going to be some like kind of beaten up stuff and you know, things laying around. So that's the real effort going into this factory over here. And again, like I said before, it's kind of like some practice more than anything. Like it was an honest attempt at trying something kind of new, and then on top of that, it's something that I'm really looking forward to doing in the future parts of this series. So I want to make something on a much larger scale that's kind of like this, that incorporates our rail yard, that incorporates our main town. So that's the idea behind this. And you can see I'm using a lot of surface painter right now. So that's going to be a big thing here. It makes it really easy to make the concrete and the dirt and everything look a little bit like roughed up and not clean. So that was the first, you know, big step towards doing something like that. I'm actually using the wrong gates right now. You're gonna see probably, I might even cut it out honestly, but I'll go back and fix those. Use the right width gates. I don't know why I was using the double width gates there, but The surface painter stuff's really rough right now, and I'm actually using it sort of as like a, I guess like a blueprint or a rough draft of what I want the surrounding foliage to look like. So I'm laying down the surface painter very rough, and then from there I go in, I use foliage to sort of like, you know, it's like the guidelines for the foliage. So then I put down, you know, the rough patches of grass and the patches of like little bush here and there, and then I move in from there and use the large decals to sort of blend everything together. So that's like my process for all this stuff. You're going to see that sort of be carried out throughout this little project, but I think my favorite thing with the surface painter is just being able to grab that dirt from those dirt roads and kind of just like pull it out and make it all kind of mesh together. I really dig the way that all looks in the end. I'm using this ruin texture quite a bit as well, or I was back there anyway, and that kind of helps play into blending everything together. But we're finally moving into the details. So I think I start with this main. Yeah, I'm gonna jump around. I don't even want to like start to describe which area I'm detailing because I'm gonna jump around a ton. But I guess we'll go here first. So you can see I'm gonna be working on this outer area right outside the main oil refinery. Something that I noticed, and this is also sort of coming from the source of the area we were working on here, is just outside of the cargo facility. It kind of made sense to have a whole bunch of these big piles of like raw resources. So I started with some big piles of like cement. We got some piles of asphalt. We've got these little like tractors and these little like tanks, or what are they? Like containers, I guess, of raw material, stuff like that. We've got just like big machinery to move all the stuff around, and then from there just moving into the little details and things, putting down some porta potties, and here come, I think, the decals will really help to blend it all together. But I felt like this big yard out here really needed to be worked a little bit, because again, I'm trying to blend this big refinery together with Strict Toaster's work, and I thought the best way to do that was to kind of make this middle section become like a big, I guess, yard for all of our raw resources. And kind of playing in again to the rundown aspect of this area, I wanted to like really crack up the roads and throw down some dirt. You know, it's not like a big clean concrete facility with you know, it's definitely been here for a while, maybe not so maintained. So that's where that came in. I did add some stuff to Strict Toasters because I don't think he actually had the large decals whenever he made that little area over there. So just trying to blend the two together a little bit more. But I use quite a few of these decals, especially in the oil refinery, just to kind of make it all, I don't know, blend those surface painter textures together a bit. So I do that quite a bit over here as well. I think I'm getting close to trying to, yeah, here we go, to rope in the whole area now. So the next thing I wanted to do is add like a, kind of like a lightweight chain link fence, nothing crazy, but I did feel like it was a little bit weird to have this whole area just be like sitting open air with no containment whatsoever. So I think I changed my mind on the, I think it was just like I was too far away from the road there. So throwing down some chain link fence pretty much all the way around this facility over here, or at least as far as the pipes over on this side. But I did think it makes sense to just, oh yeah, this is the one problem with the large decals, is it's almost impossible to delete things that are placed on top of the decals. So I know Strict Toaster was talking a bit, I think maybe during that podcast episode, but also just off camera with me, about his process and how he builds things. And I know that he always says that he builds everything else first and then puts the decals down. And I think that's a really good idea. I have a hard time doing that because I feel like a lot of how I want the foliage to look relies on the decals. And so I have a tendency to do decals right after I do the surface painter stuff. So my method is kind of switched with his, but I also run into problems here you'll see during this episode where I'll build things with these big decals, and then I'll look back and be like, man, I want to change things, and then I have to delete everything because the decals are in the way, and then I have to put them back again. So I don't know. I guess it's up to you how you want to build, but keep in mind that Strict Toaster says it's better to do it the other way around. It's probably better to do it his way, honestly. I think it's a little more time-saving. You don't end up deleting stuff you've already built, and saves you some frustration, I guess. So that's kind of nice. But Here I'm trying to put in some fences and kind of section off different areas. I think that this the big power relay section there would definitely be fenced off. And then I'm also putting some parking stuff down. We can park some oil trucks, I guess, on the outside over here. And then maybe leave some of these empty as well. But just trying to fill some of these big concrete empty spaces, because I've noticed just from looking at these refineries that pretty much every empty spot in these big facilities is just like full of something. There's some purpose for every single square inch of these areas. So I try to put things pretty much everywhere. You know, these empty spots will probably have like an oil truck parked there and, you know, awaiting a driver or something. Or maybe there's like a back alley over here that's got all the garbage collection stuff, and that's why there's like a little way for these like trucks to drive through. There's some parking back there, and this is like the alleyway with all maybe some extra supplies and stuff laying around. But really just trying to get in there and blend it all together, make it all look like one big thing. That's like the name of the game for this area over here. Of course, I love these traffic barrels, so I wanted to throw some of these in, especially in the areas kind of surrounding this gigantic yard full of raw resources. I think that you need maybe some guidance, some like temporary guidance. You know, those traffic barrels are nice for that. Because I'm sure that the yard probably changes in the way the traffic flows whenever there's more or less materials there, so it kind of makes sense to have that. I also love using these pipes as a way to sort of connect two different buildings together by having like those big elevated pipes going straight into the wall like that. Here I'm going to put down some lights and do the classic light posts with traffic barrels thing that I seem to always do with these big empty areas. Thought it made sense to do that here and there. And also just, you know, lighting in general is kind of important. But I think we're going to finally move on to, at least for now, this factory over here. We'll probably switch back and forth. But this one to me was much more heavy on supplies, on importing and exporting goods and things. So this whole outer warehouse area is going to be just full of pallets. I wanted to really emphasize that this was like a big storage location. We're going to have like a whole bunch of trucks moving in and out, carrying pallets and things. So pretty much everywhere, even outside these big warehouse things, there's going to be pallets everywhere. There's going to be some trucks and things, some empty truck beds, you know, all that good stuff. And of course, some lighting. So that's what I'm working on now. Some more of those traffic barrel lights here and there. And also some of these little back areas, I was trying to take advantage of the extra space and park some trailers, because there wasn't like a whole lot of room on this main stretch to put trailers and things, and I would imagine there would just be like tons of these trailers everywhere. So I tried my best to make use of all the space and make sure that all looked nice there. And I'm actually going to use this little outer space over here where the dirt is to throw down some more trailers, like a big, maybe a little more of a temporary location for trailers that weren't being used nearly as often. So they can come in and park here if they're not going anywhere anytime soon and need somewhere to leave their trailer temporarily. And that was kind of nice as well. And of course, some lighting and some traffic barrels there at the end to kind of polish it all off. And also, I think I'll jump in and out of a nighttime mode here to show off how well lit this whole area is. But I think right about now, I'm going to really start focusing on the security a bit more. I think I had put down those gates and things, but I wanted to make sure that everything was fenced off. So there was some police there trying to like work out some of those loose ends. You know, there was like that weird road going to nowhere that I think eventually I'm going to connect to that little town just outside this area here, but we'll see about that. And then working on the front here, not nearly as much pallets or empty pallets or whatever. I feel like this area is gonna be a lot more empty, just kind of dedicated to all the workers parking and walking in. We're not going to have a lot of storage in the front over here. This is kind of like a little area I'd imagine the security would sit in their little hut there or something. I don't really know. I think they need something like that though. And then of course some large decals around here. Really going with the cracked roads, especially around these areas. I imagine these roads that are being like totally run down by trucks over and over again would definitely have lots of cracks in them, be pretty beat up. So I tried to emphasize that quite a bit. Now we're moving on to the foliage around here. So again, I do think that it makes a lot of sense to have these areas that are like immediately surrounded by or that are like immediately, yeah, I guess surrounded by buildings or kind of dense, would definitely have some larger trees like right next to them. It's kind of natural to have big trees growing near civilization. So we've got that going on, and then pretty much outside of these big trees that I put down, and there's not very many of them, they're mostly surrounding the warehouse facility, which I kind of thought made sense. I tried to definitely keep it light when it came to the areas surrounding the refinery. I imagine it's not the most fertile of land, so there's not much over there, but here I'm trying to bring out again what I did last episode, just like clusters of bushes that sort of move out and away from these areas. So clusters here and there, and then I think I'm going to move into the wild grass here pretty soon and start working with that. Some Joshua trees here and there, and just kind of, more than anything, blending together the textures as well and making everything kind of look like one big environment and not these weird little units of surface painter here and there. So I think these wild grass brushes really help with that. So doing that quite a bit around here, trying to shape up this little main national road that goes between the two factories. I think that it makes sense to have some wild grass in that weird little interchange there. Not even interchange, it's like that weird junction between that super steep road. So also I did a little bit of grass here inside this big yard where we have all of the raw materials. I thought it made sense to have some wild grass growing here and there. Not super well maintained, and they're not going in there and like mowing the grass or anything, obviously, so there's going to be little bits of wild grass here and there. And then moving away, trying to like repatch up the area with Joshua trees and stuff that I had kind of removed when I started working on this area. So that's where that's coming from. And then some cactuses, sort of like the finishing touches and the nicer details for the factory. So that's pretty much it for the factory. You can see we're going to move back in now towards these neighborhoods, and I wanted to leave it with like some sort of road network, but nothing that I was going to actually work on this episode. And again, it is entirely time-lapsed, so I was a little pressed for time actually towards the end here. Of course, I love doing live stuff, but it seems like I can get a lot more done when I do these time lapses, and when I'm doing lots of detailing and stuff, it really just doesn't make a lot of sense to do as much live footage. So that's when, I get kind of pressed for time at the end, and this one hopefully was a pretty long episode. I don't think it's going to be like the 40-minute range or anything, but it certainly won't be super short either. So hopefully that was all right. I wanted to get in as much work as done as possible, and I really wanted to get not only the factory done, but also at the very least detail these apartments. So like I said, right now just putting down some road networks and giving Fresh something to work with. Because he's going to come in here probably and rework the rest of this area over here. So I wanted to give him something to work with, but then definitely wanted to finish off what I'd started with the apartments at the very least. So we'll worry about the rest of that stuff later, all the neighborhoods and stuff. But this is like another, I don't think it's my favorite part of this episode because I really like the way that refinery turned out, but I really do like this little apartment complex. I tried to make the little centerpiece look kind of nice. We've got like a pool and some hot tubs and some like decorative rocks and some nice foliage. Everything's like nice and well maintained. So we're going to have some trees and some flowers and some bushes kind of all surrounding these apartments and stuff. Very much so the exact opposite of what we just built. So very nice, very well maintained. We got these like nice fences. You can see those black ones that I just put down there. They really remind me of like a private pool area. So trying to incorporate that just a little bit over here. We got some outdoor furniture. We got, I think I'm putting down some more tables and chairs and stuff, and trying to make the center area look kind of nice before we move on to the rest of the detailing around here. We got some big trees. Those like palm looking things and some wild grass and stuff in between these two buildings, but I would definitely imagine living in these would be pretty nice. Probably like some of the nicest areas in Zamora in general. And then we'll see about the main town. I don't really know if the main town will even have neighborhoods as nice as this one. I kind of imagine that some of the nicest neighborhoods would be outside of Zamora, just because outside of the main town, because places like Zamora are close enough to the main town to be nice, but they're not a part of this like giant, I imagine this main town is going to be sort of centered around the rail yard and the factory district and all this like heavy industry going on. So maybe those neighborhoods around there wouldn't be super nice, but I do think that this is a good opportunity for a nice neighborhood. And maybe one of the only ones, honestly, maybe one of my only opportunities to make a nice looking area here in Arrowhead. So I took advantage of it, of course, and put some little nice bushes down and stuff. But I think, and I think I mentioned this, maybe not in this series, but in my own series, but I'm going to use these wooden fences here pretty soon. And I think this is the thing that really makes complexes like this, kind of like closed neighborhoods, like whether it's an apartment complex or a suburb neighborhood or, something like that. Regardless of what it is, if it's like a closed off neighborhood and you use these, not these smaller fences, but like the full wooden fences kind of all the way around the outside, it really does make the whole thing look like one big complex, and it's really nice. It really reminds me of like an American suburb. So I definitely recommend trying something like this if you're trying to go for that look. You'll see I'm just going to kind of wrap it all the way around the outside. I'm not afraid to jump straight through the bushes there. I'd imagine there'd be some kind of growth over the fence, and then wrap it all around the outside as well, close off the pool area. And then I think once we get away from the main neighborhood here and towards Zamora, I'm going to get a little more organic with it and let it kind of wrap around the outside of these buildings over here. As you can see, just kind of like some bigger sweeping movements, and then back to the main one over here. Now we are approaching that time of the episode, the end of the episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed, again, another like full time-lapse episode. It seems like the consensus in the comments is that a lot of you guys like the time-lapses more than the live footage, but at the same time, a lot of you guys want longer episodes and not shorter episodes. The thing about these time-lapse episodes is, of course, everything is time-lapsed. So for a live episode, I record maybe an eighth of what I record for a time-lapsed episode. So it does take a little more work, and that's why as a result, a lot of times they're a bit shorter. I think this one will actually be a little bit on the longer side for a time-lapsed episode, which again is probably right about even for, an episode that has some live components. So I hope you guys enjoyed the progress we made at the very least of this episode, because again, it was all about just getting that refinery done, getting these apartments sort of sorted out, and also leaving Fresh with something to work with in his episode. So I am going to hand this one off to Fresh Popcorn. So if you're not subscribed to his channel, go head over to Fresh Popcorn's YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe, and look forward to his episode next Friday. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.